Okay, so this is just happening in breaking news. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass just confronted ICE officials during an ICE raid and got rejected. Number 2, detention facilities are now being targeted where multiple officers have been injured. And number 3, Jeffrey Epstein, no list, no case, but MAGA's not buying it. We're going to get to all these stories and give you the bottom line.
I am going to say,
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and we're departing.
Okay. All right.
Mayor Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Any comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak
Just
with?
wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
They will be leaving soon.
Mayor Bass, who did you speak with on the phone just now? Who did you speak with on the phone?
They had a custody.
Wow.
Okay, so that was the mayor continuing to politicize this situation, believing confronting ICE officials is going to get her the results that she wants. Newsflash, it's not, because she doesn't have the jurisdiction to tell them to get out of there. Come on, let's get real. And for the record, that park, if you're not from that area, is known to have gang activity, including MS-13 gang members. So these federal authorities, they're doing the job. If you don't like it, you should be going down to Capitol Hill and applying pressure to your congressional leaders. Now, here's some more information on this.
You can see the armored tank right there with some of the military and federal agents as they have boarded this. This is all part of an immigration enforcement operation happening right now in LA. We have been covering this issue for weeks now, bringing you these live looks from Los Angeles after some of these anti-ICE protests turned very violent. And we were hearing from LA Mayor Karen Bass on a daily basis as she was criticizing these raids, criticizing President Trump and his immigration policies. So we did see her get out of her vehicle, surrounded. She's demanding a stop to these raids as you continue to see this large convoy of federal agents and military in this area of Los Angeles. We're going to continue to monitor this, and of course, we will bring you any updates as they do come in. No word yet on whether Mayor Bass will address this or not. But
okay, so as you guys can see, this is the video that got the mayor's attention, where she felt the need to actually go down to the park. As I stated earlier, there's a lot of gang activity in the area. That's why they were there. Obviously, nobody got hurt. And this is starting to become just a strategy from people on the left. They believe it makes more sense to fight back against federal authorities. And let me just show you an example of that. This is an article posted by Axios this morning titled "Democrats Told to Get Shot for the Anti-Trump Resistance." And what does that truly mean? Well, let me show you some points here. House Democrats told Axios they see a growing anger among their base. I wonder why that is. They've been radicalized. Let me show you a second point here. Quote, "We've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something. No matter what we say, they want more." Again, I wonder why that is. Final point for you guys, and this is where it really gets troubling. The grassroots wants more. Quote, "Some of them have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot when visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies," a third House Democrat told Axios. They went on to say this, quote, "Our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough. There needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public." You guys already have the attention of the press and the public. And you think that's going to be the solution? Meaning what, in case you're not getting the point here? They want a George Floyd Black Lives Matter riot all over again. They want people to be injured. They want people to be hurt. And in some cases, I guess they're okay with some people dying to get their point across that they don't like what the Trump administration is doing. And to prove our point of how dangerous the rhetoric can be and how it turns into violence, it is now being reported that ICE agents were targeted this morning in a shootout. Take a listen.
We got multiple teams working this story as we learn more about this breaking news, but apparently a man showed up to this facility this morning with tactical gear and a rifle, opening fire on those agents at the front. Fire was returned. Dozens of shots was fired, and we have confirmed that man was killed in this. He's been identified as Ryan Lewis, 27 years old. But as we show you these images, obviously very concerning. This man with a rifle and that tactical gear showing up. You can see the image of him down right there. Multiple shots fired. we have a confirmed statement that this morning an individual opened fire at the entrance of the United States border sector annex in McAllen, Texas. That was according to the Department of Homeland Security spokesman. We do know this is an ongoing investigation. One of the officers involved in this was shot in the knee, so that officer will need medical attention, but we're told will be in stable condition and okay. But right now, a very concerning situation with this man, Ryan Lewis, 27, apparently with a Michigan address, several other weapons and backpacks and gear inside his car, showing up and opening fire this morning. No news yet, Wolf, of whether or not there was any sort of manifesto or any kind of message left behind, but this shooting did happen in the last few hours.
All right, now before we move any further, if you guys have been getting value from our channel, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below, buy us a cup of coffee, or shop our merch store. We got multiple new shirt designs. We got I Support ICE, we got MAGA Pack, and we also have Alligator Alcatraz. And all of them, you can get with a matching coffee mug as well. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Number one, the disturbing fact you guys need to know up front is this is one of 2 shootings over the past weekend at a DHS detention facility. Number 2, there's no question that the country is being programmed to hate ICE agents, attacking law enforcement officers, burning down cities, and continuing to speak about ICE officers as if they are the problem is never going to get you the results that you want. Now, here is the story on the second shooting.
A North Texas police officer was shot in the neck outside of an ICE detention center. It happened Friday night in Alvarado, Texas, about 40 miles outside of Dallas. Authorities say Alvarado police responded to the facility in reference to a suspicious person and observed someone appearing to carry a gun. They say one of the officers tried to engage with that person, and that's when multiple suspects opened fire on the officer. The injured officer was taken to a hospital, treated, and later released, and multiple suspects were arrested in connection to the shooting. No additional details have been released on the suspects at this time. In response to this incident, officials with the Department of Homeland Security said, quote, "Threats or acts of violence toward law enforcement officers will not be tolerated. Secretary Noem has made it clear, if you threaten or attempt to harm a law enforcement officer, we will fine you and prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law."
Okay, so let's get down to the numbers. Okay, so when did both of these shootings take place? The one in McAllen, Texas was July 7th, today, and then Alvarado, Texas was on July 4th. So both in Texas. Overall, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 police officers injured. Now, luckily, none of them died, and that's great news. 8 suspects were arrested in the Alvarado, Texas shooting, and the suspect in the McAllen shooting, well, he's dead. So again, this is becoming problematic because if this continues as a pattern, we easily know why it's happening. It's the rhetoric that surrounds deportations and ICE officers, as I stated earlier. Now, here's Tom Homan and his reaction to this. Take a look.
Who were these suspects who were fired, who actually fired the shots and were later arrested? Who were they, Tom?
Look, they're your typical protesters that go from protesters to criminals. The attack on ICE officers, you've covered it many times, is up nearly 700% now. We were talking 500% a couple weeks ago, so it continues. The rhetoric against the men and women of ICE is skyrocketing, especially by members of Congress. We have senators, we have Congress people that compare ICE to the Nazis, compare ICE to racists, and it just continues. So the public thinks, well, if a member of Congress can attack ICE, why can't we? So the rhetoric has to stop. Or it's a matter of time for someone to, one of the ICE officers goes down or a criminal goes down. But we already see an officer go down.
To be clear, so these were American citizens? These weren't illegals who opened fire?
No. As far as the investigation, I want to get ahead of the local investigation on this, but they appear to be agitators, people that are protesting ICE operations, damaging ICE property, want to attack ICE officers.
Now, let's be real. When you look at conservatives and people on the right who support Trump, and their reaction to what Elon Musk has been doing lately, do you see them rioting? Do you see them vandalizing Tesla? Do you see them boycotting Tesla and calling for their cancellation? Even the cancellation of Elon Musk? No, you don't. There is a clear difference of opinion. A lot of people no longer respect Elon Musk, but that doesn't mean they're going to become deranged. Now, let's compare that to how the left reacted to Elon Musk. They attempted to burn down his dealerships. In case of Austin, they set bombs at the dealership. Luckily, those were defused. They vandalized Teslas all over the place. They doxed Tesla owners. So if they did that to Tesla and Elon Musk, in fact, some of these people they did it to are people of the same party, Democrats. What do you think they're going to do to ICE agents? It's only a matter of time, as Tom Homan pointed out. And it's not helpful when you have the leadership of Democrats calling for the defunding of ICE agents and continuing to be extreme in the reaction. Take a look at what Hakeem Jeffries said this morning on The View.
Now, some Democrats, amid the criticisms of ICE right now due to these ICE raids, have started calling for defunding ICE. Do you think that's effective going into the midterms, and do you support those calls?
Well, I definitely think that, we need aggressive oversight as it relates to the overly aggressive behavior that we've seen, from ICE, from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not what the American people actually, in my view, voted for. Yeah. Donald Trump and Republicans promised to go after violent felons, but instead they're going after law-abiding immigrant families. And in fact, in some cases, deporting American citizens and children, some with cancer.
Okay, so clearly Hakeem Jeffries is lying, and let me give you the example of why that is. He is referencing a story of where a child who has parents that were in this country illegally, ICE gave the parents an option. You take your kids with you, or you leave them here with a family member. They chose to take their parents with them back to their homeland. So an American citizen did not get deported. Now, did this child have cancer? Yes, they did. But why is that the problem of ICE? It's not. It's the parents who decided to take that child back with them. So that's number one. This is like the fine people hoax all over again. Number two, in regards to the Trump administration trying to deport criminal legal aliens, that's exactly what the administration is trying to accomplish, but there's only one problem. Sanctuary city policies prevent them from being effective at doing that. So Democrats, you can't have it both ways. You can't demand that the Trump administration deport criminal legal aliens and at the same time tell them, hey, but you can't do it in our cities. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're going to do it that way, don't be mad when ICE starts to target people they know are here unlawfully. Doesn't matter if you call them law-abiding citizens. Now, here's what the White House press secretary had to say in response to the recent violence against ICE agents.
Michael, in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. An armed shooter today was shot in McAllen, Texas, after opening fire on Border Patrol agents. It comes just days after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently said she gets, quote, inspired when activists obstruct ICE. Does the White House expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric in light of what we saw today in McAllen, Texas?
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women. I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect and dignity for trying to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to remove public safety threats from our communities. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
Well, we know exactly what's happening because it doesn't take a rocket science or an experienced detective to conclude that the increased violence against ICE officers and now DHS and now these detention facilities is due to not only the rhetoric, but the failed leadership of Democrats. And then you combine that with a base that's been radicalized and in some cases have mental health issues because they cannot get emotionally in control of themselves and they take politics too seriously. Yeah, these are the outcomes that are going to continue to happen. Now, let's go to our other breaking news story. And this is also frustrating, but now we're talking about the people on the right. Jeffrey Epstein, the client list that allegedly existed. Well, according to the DOJ, there is no client list, and Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself in his cell. We're going to get into the reaction of this, but let's first hear the details. Take a look.
A memo obtained by Axios claims the Department of Justice and the FBI both conclude that Jeffrey Epstein had no client list, and also he did indeed take his own life. Now, the news rattling some skeptics who firmly believe the government covered up info around his death and a potential client list that could implicate some very important people.
All right, so if you guys want to know how I feel about this announcement, just take a look at this meme on the screen. First, we went from "we will release the Epstein list" to "we just need more time" to "the Epstein list is on my desk," and now there is no Epstein list. Now, I'm not an idiot. You aren't either. And obviously, this comes down to really two main points I just want to make right up front. For the people in the back who believe I don't ever criticize President Trump, yes, I do. This is another criticism. This is a total failure, starting with him and the people he put in charge to handle this case, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. So there's no more excuses. This is a legitimate failure from his administration, no question. Point number two, don't make promises you can't keep. It's like a great business lesson here. Don't overpromise to your customer, underpromise, overdeliver. This is one of those situations where they didn't even have to say they were going to release the list. They didn't need to do that. But they chose to do the song and dance. They chose to do the photo op. They chose to bamboozle these influencers they brought to the White House and come out with these binders that had no information in it. They chose to do that. They knew what they were doing. In fact, let's go back down memory lane and listen to the Attorney General herself say that the list was on her desk. Take a look.
I saw your appearance at CPAC with Ben and with Ted Cruz. And one of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So let's get this straight. DOJ says the case is closed. There's no list, and Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself in his own cell. But February 21st, she claimed that the client list was on her desk, and that she was only doing all of this because of the directive from the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So this is a complete failure. I don't care about a list at this point. We knew we were never going to get the list. What we don't like, especially as conservatives, if you're going to come out and make this bold promise about the Epstein list and claim that you're all about the victims, you wouldn't play games like this politically, okay? We know you're not playing games when it comes to illegal immigration. We see how serious the administration is in that regard. But they're not that serious when it comes to the Epstein list. Let's get real here. Now, to show you the political games that they're playing, listen to the White House press secretary and how she responds to Fox News when they confront her over Pam Bondi's statement. Take a look.
Follow up on that, Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
Okay, so let's understand Caroline's position in all of this. It's her job to defend the president, just like the last White House press secretary. So you can't tell the American people where Pam Bondi was asked repeatedly. That's just one clip. There's more clips where she clearly acknowledged there was a list, or she allowed the person who was asking her questions to lead with the idea that there was a client list. She didn't correct Fox News and say, hey, wait a minute. There's no actual client list, but there are documents relating to the case that's on my desk. She didn't say that. And when you are the Attorney General of the United States, you need to be clear, especially when you're making 1,000 appearances on Fox News. Now, this is a legitimate criticism. Two things could be true at the same time. Kash Patel and the FBI are finally focusing on the things that matter. But as it pertains to the Jeffrey Epstein case, they clearly dropped the ball here. They made promises that they couldn't keep.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability.
Okay, so that was Alina Habba earlier this year claiming that it's about accountability and there's going to be some breaking stories around the Jeffrey Epstein case. And clearly that's not going to happen because the DOJ has closed it. So that's point number one. Point number two, and I believe this to be the most likely scenario here, is not only was there a list, but there was a list of names on both sides of the aisle politically, Hollywood, academia, donors, lobbyists. Some of the most important and richest people on this planet were on that list. And so the compromise here is let's just go ahead and destroy it, because at the end of the day, there are people on that list that probably didn't do anything wrong. They probably weren't involved in anything nefarious. They just happened to be on the list. They just happened to go to the island and they were perfectly innocent. But Americans will never see it that way. If you're on that list, people automatically think you're guilty.
FBI Director Kash Patel, right? Dan Bongino, the Deputy FBI Director, both firmly in the camp prior to this of believing there was a cover-up, now both saying there isn't.
Add the Attorney General and the President of the United States. Add a federal district court judge in Brooklyn here in New York City who presided over the trial, at the end of which she ordered everything released. So something is amiss here. Politically, the MAGA base won't be happy about this because they've been promised that it will be released. And some of the names you mentioned were leaders of that base, Patel and Bongino. Legally, it's hard for me to imagine that the list has suddenly never existed because of this order from the federal judge. So somebody is going to force the FBI's hand here.
So the other thing,
let me add one other thing. Of all the pathologists in the country, Michael Baden, B-A-D-E-N, is one of the most highly regarded and one of the government's favorites to use when having to explain to a jury how a person died. Michael Baden concluded Epstein was murdered, that it was impossible for him to have killed himself the way his body ended up.
Okay, so there are multiple reasons why people are so obsessed with this Epstein case. For me personally, it's about the victims. Now, I'm a person who doesn't believe he acted alone. I don't believe it was just him and his wife. That's just what I personally believe. And because I believe that, that means to me that there are people still out there that were a part of this scheme that are getting off scot-free. And I imagine that some of these people are very powerful. So that's why I am attracted to the case. Now, as far as who's on the list and when were they on the list and all this, I don't really care about that. It's about the justice for the victims. And that's why I call out Pam Bondi, because that's what she led with. We're trying to take care of the victims here. If you're trying to take care of the victims, wouldn't you go after the people who were involved? Now, the other negative thing about all this is not just the backlash from Trump supporters, but it's also MSDNC and what they're spending their time doing when they start talking about this case. Take a look.
Yeah, that's for sure, Katie. But the first thing, though, to be said, I think, is that it's good for America that the Justice Department did the right thing here and acknowledge what our colleagues who've covered this case for years have long known, which is that these conspiracy theories are not true. Because that hasn't always been the case with this administration. Just last week, Kash Patel and the FBI were touting files that they said, fueled an election-related conspiracy theory that was bogus. So good that they did the right thing. But as you said, the problem is that Pam Bondi went on television on Fox News and said that she had the Epstein file on her desk, and she implied that there was a client list. There's some confusion about that now. Her people are saying she didn't mean that there was a client list, but she set the table for the expectations that long had existed, that there were these hidden secrets buried in these files. And of course, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino for years have been fueling them in podcasts and other right-wing circles. And as you can imagine, MAGA world is furious now.
So the bottom line is on this story is Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, they made multiple appearances on podcasts or hosted podcasts where they suggested that Jeffrey Epstein in this entire case was a cover-up. Now that they're in charge, they're saying there is no cover-up. That is a huge problem, and that demands and requires an explanation on their behalf. Will we get one? Probably not. Now, I want to get your guys' reaction to the stories in the comment section below, okay? LA Mayor Karen Bass, what is she doing? Does she honestly think showing up and confronting federal authorities is really going to get her the results that she wants, especially after multiple detention facilities were attacked, law enforcement were injured? I mean, this is just getting out of hand. And of course, what is your reaction to this announcement from the DOJ? Do you really buy it? Well, how do you respond? What do you think should happen with Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino? Just give me all your thoughts about everything in the comment section below. Now, yesterday, CNN and ABC suffered humiliating setbacks after they tried to blame the Texas flash floods on President Trump. Multiple experts, including Democrats, pushed back and actually made them look stupid. So if you guys missed out on that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.